So I'll get started. Everyone should know that this is being recorded. So if you hop on a little late or you miss something, you'll be able to access it later and get all of these questions answered through the recorded webinar. This is our first of a couple of town halls that we'll be having. We're calling them town halls in advance of the next Shoppe Object in February, the 2nd through the 3rd of February, and this one at our very exciting new home at the Sterrett-Lehigh building. Unless you've been living under a rock, which I don't think any of you have been, you will know that we are moving for the coming show to our new home that we've been working on for a couple of years now at the Sterrett-Lehigh building between 26th Street and 27th Street, 11th and 12th Avenues on the west side of Manhattan. And we're really thrilled to be moving into such a classic landmark building with tons of natural light. And we are occupying almost the entirety of the 3rd floor of the building, as well as half of the 4th floor of the building. I was there with a bunch of people that are on the panel today on Friday, checking out progress as they're working on the space. And it's super exciting. I'm also going to share an image quickly with you of the exterior of the building for those of you that aren't familiar with it. I'm also going to share a quick picture of the interior of the space that we are currently working on. So it's very gallery-like. It's bright white. The floors will be polished concrete. There are columns, which we've had a lot of fun with as we're trying to lay out this floor for the first time. As with all new things, there are challenges, but they're exciting ones for us to be dealing with because we're thrilled to be moving into this space and creating a great environment for all of you. Looking forward. Introducing everyone that you see here, you'll probably recognize most of the faces. You'll see from our Shoppe Object team, Renata, of course, and Papa. And there are others that are probably here but not on video with us. And then lots of folks from the space team, our long partners in operations and production for the show, including Eric and Sarah and Grace and Amrita and Madeline and Trevor. The way this is going to work today, I want to let everyone know that there is a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. That is where we invite you all to enter your questions, anything that you want to know about as we move into this new space and as we address some of the changing logistics of what it means to be loading into a new building for the first time. There is a chat button as well, but that's not really where we're going to be addressing the questions that you have today. So we encourage you all to get familiar with that Q&A button in particular and use that as the place where you enter your questions. And as we get started, Amrita's going to start with us today outlining some of the logistical and operational details related to the upcoming show, particularly related to shipping and load-in changes. Things will be different, but things will be great. And we ask for your openness to change and your patience as we go through that process together. So a lot of detail will be shared by Amrita in that part of this town hall. And at the same time, Sarah and Madeline will be answering your questions in the Q&A chat in real time. So if you go to the Q&A and type in your questions, they will answer them there. If certain questions come up that are not easily addressed in the manual, which you all should have access to at this point, they will bring them live to the forum here, and we'll be able to answer them as a group for you. Most things, we've done our best, as always, to try to answer most questions in the manual. So it's really good to dig into that, especially if you're a newer exhibitor, to find lots of answers to all of the most basic questions that you might come up with. There's really a lot of valuable information in there, but certainly sometimes it's hard to find things, and using a forum like this is helpful. So feel free to ask questions in the Q&A chat, and we will answer them here for you today. And towards the end of this town hall, Grace is going to share some details of some forthcoming town halls that we're going to be having, particularly related to great things that are happening on the Shop Online front, some changes to that platform, some updates that I think you'll all find really helpful and positive. But certainly in those upcoming forums, we'll have the opportunity to answer any other questions that come up in the time between now and then. And we'll probably have new updates for you at that time, because as we continue construction on this new space, inevitably there will be some details that will come to light that we'll be able to share with you there. And I think that's pretty much the plan for today. It's going to be about an hour, I think. We can see who's here. You all can't see each other, unfortunately, but trust me when I tell you that it's a crowded audience, and that's very exciting. Use that Q&A, lean into it. We're here for that purpose, and we're excited. We're thrilled after, just about 6 years at Pier 36 and about 7 years since we first launched the show. To be moving into this new space is incredibly exciting to all of us, and hopefully to you as well. So it'll be great to have us all under one roof again, and looking at the Hudson River as we all enjoy this show. I'm going to send it over to Amrita now, and we're all here to answer your questions. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Jesse. Hi, everyone. I'm Amrita, as Jesse just introduced. I work with Space, and I'll briefly be covering the logistics for the upcoming show. As Jesse mentioned, we do kindly request you reserve your questions to the end of our slides, as we may actually just address your queries during the short presentation that we have today. So let's proceed. Excuse me. Sorry. Oops, sorry, just a sec. Okay, so shipping into the show, there's a few key changes that we all have to take note of with the new venue, and the first pertains to crates and pallets. So BTX Global, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with them. We've worked with them since kind of the beginning of Shoppe Object. They are now the global mandatory shipper for all freight at the show. All crated and palletized freight must be sent through BTX using their advanced shipment arrangement, and it will be delivered to your booth prior to your arrival at the venue. We strongly recommend contacting them directly. They have been perfect partners for us since the beginning of our kind of opening of Shoppe Object, so they will help you from beginning to end. We know that they have a deadline of January 22nd of next year, and we request that any advanced shipments be sent to them by that date. Otherwise, you may start to incur fees that we'd love for you to avoid. So that is our kind of main guideline and main change with the new venue, is that all crates and freighted pallets must be sent in through with BTX. Another update that we had to add is that we have a new freight elevator, and as that happens, we have new dimensions and new size restrictions with that elevator. So right here, we've kind of listed the maximum width, height, and depth of the elevator, as well as a weight capacity. We request that if you have freight that's larger than this, send operations at an email. We can take a look at what we can do, but on the whole, we request everybody please adhere to these freight elevator dimensions for their crated and palletized items. Obviously, people are going to be bringing in small packages. We totally understand that that's the case. We do require any small packages, if you're going to be using a shipper other than BTX, that FedEx and UPS are your choice. We strongly recommend against using FedEx and UPS at this venue, as locating lost and misdelivered packages will be much more difficult than in prior seasons. The new building houses hundreds of tenants, so trying to find a misdelivered package might take far longer than it has at our previous venues, which is another reason why we strongly urge you ship with BTX in advance. But if you do decide to use FedEx or UPS, please note we have an arrival window of Jan 30th to Jan 31st from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., by which all of your packages should be delivered to your space. As usual, please note, be mindful of how you label your packages so that we can ensure that they get to your booth as smoothly and quickly as we can when we're on site. Loading in, there's a few kind of different tiers to loading in this year. Obviously, you are all familiar, most of you are familiar with our hand carrying arrangement. If you are hand carrying into the venue, these are the dates and times you can do so. We have Thursday, the 30th of January from 5 to 11 p.m., Friday, the 31st of January from 5 to 11 p.m., and Saturday, the 1st of February from 9 to 8 p.m. Just to reiterate, these times are reserved for hand carrying only. No pallets or crates, aka items that you have sent in advance with BTX, will be allowed into this venue during this time. BTX will have already delivered all of your advance freight to your space, so anything that you're bringing in by hand has to come in on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday from 5 to 11 on Thursday and Friday, and 9 to 8 on Saturday. As usual, we'll have an unloading zone. This time it'll be located on 26th Street, and it's limited to 15 POVs at a time. POVs stand for personally owned vehicles, and it'll run on a first come, first served basis. So each vehicle has a 30-minute time limit for unloading. We request that you adhere to those times to ensure we don't result in a backlog of vehicles at the unloading zone, and get you guys into your booths as quick as possible. Again, as always, we have porter service available. Our porters will be dotted around the entrance of the space with hand carts, and they will assist you with moving items from the unloading zone on 26th Street to your booth. Again, similar premise on a first come, first served basis. Just a little bit of background regarding these new restrictions and instructions for loading in. The loading dock at this particular venue is used by several other tenants, almost hundreds, for their own use. So during the weekdays, we are restricted to loading in at certain times, but hand carrying is open and welcome on weekday evenings and on the weekends, per the schedule outlined up here and in the exhibitor manual. Again, we know that this is all new, so if you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to us at operations and we can cover a more in-depth kind of instruction if needed. We've kind of created a bit of a breakdown of what you can and can't do on each day of load-in. This is a simplified table that we've made. I'll quickly go through it, but again, it's available in the exhibitor manual now, and please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. On Thursday from 5 to 11 p.m., you can hand carry small items into the show, you can set up your booth, and you can use the loading zone and porter service, which I described in our previous slide. What you can't do on Thursday from 5 to 11 p.m. is bring in any large freight. So the loading zone, the actual area for opening up and receiving large pallets and freights will be closed from 5 to 11 p.m. on Thursday. On Friday, before 5 p.m., you are welcome to come in and set up your booth with any small items or hand-carried boxes and personal belongings. But again, no large freight or using the kind of POV hand cart area will be permitted on Friday before 5 p.m. After 5 p.m. on Friday, however, you are permitted to hand carry small items in using the loading zone, set up your booth, use the porter service, the hand carts. It kind of all becomes a little bit more open, and you're welcome to start kind of seriously setting up your booth after 5 p.m. on Friday. But again, no large freight can be unloaded on Friday after 5 p.m. Saturday from 9 to 8, that's when we get to the weekend. You can hand carry small items in again. You can set up your booth. You can use the loading zone and porter service, but again, no large freight will be allowed in. All large freight, all pallets, all crates must be sent with BTX. And those are the rules for the new venue. All loadout instructions will be sent in email towards the beginning of the actual show per what we've done for the last few seasons of the event. And loadout will follow a similar schedule. We'll share details in our email, but if you have particular questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to help. And schedules and times can be found in the exhibitor manual as well for your quick reference. An upcoming deadline that I wanted to highlight from operations end is our COI deadline coming up on the 8th of Jan. We have two options for insurance this season. One is to send your own COI through your own insurance company over to operations@shoppeobject.com. We have a few guidelines that we request you adhere to, and those are all highlighted in the manual. I believe Sarah has also provided a link in the chat for you to quickly access the manual during this call and webinar if you need to. So that's our first option, and we request that you submit a COI that's accurate and matches all of our kind of linguistic requirements by the 8th. The other option, which we recommend as the easier option, is to purchase insurance through our partner Total Events Insurance. We have a link that's been created, customized for our exhibitors. So all you need to do is click on the link that's in the manual on the insurance page, and it'll basically take you through all the steps to obtaining the correct insurance for our show. And if you send a copy of your confirmation of coverage, which is automatically generated once you've purchased insurance through Total Events, over to operations we'll store it and mark you guys off as ready for the show. So that's just a deadline to keep in mind, please, of January the 8th. That's it. From a logistics point of view, it was short and sweet, but if you have any questions, please feel free to use the webinar Q&A function that Jesse kindly pointed out earlier, and our team is ready to answer any of your questions. If you have any detailed questions that you prefer to ask privately, operations@shoppeobject.com is the place to go. And thank you very much for listening. Please let us know how we can help further.
Thank you so much, Amrita. There was a lot of good information there. Sarah, Madeline, are there any questions that are coming up in the Q&A that you think are worth chatting about here for a minute?
Yes, we did have a question about those who might have freight from High Point. That is a great point. That freight will be delivered prior to Thursday, January 30th, and will be in your booth prior to your arrival.
I want to note about that, Sarah. Please be sure that you have already made prior arrangements with the High Point operations team, which would be Cami. So just confirm with HP operations at shoppeobject.com.
And then we also have another, we should reiterate again as well about kiosk exhibitors, Nourish, and I believe also Gap, Global Artisan, that those exhibitors will really just be coming on Saturday to set up. Is that correct?
No,
Still, like in the past?
The Global Artisan can come per normal, but the Nourish is in kiosks are the two sets of brands that will be able to only come on Saturday. As that we set up, typically later in the setup process.
Yeah, the Global Artisan Project exhibitors are in hard wall construction in regular booths. So that is normal scheduling, whereas kiosks and Nourish are floating shelves, and that's why that's a shorter setup time.
Perfect. I guess also we did put the link to the manual in the chat for everyone again, and you can also email operations if you need it again. But there's some great resources in there, including Art Handler Collective if you are looking for assistance in setting up your booth or installing vinyl signage or anything like that during setup. That is a company you can reach out to and request some assistance from. And the manual also does include some key points about installing on the walls, the wall construction, anything like that for setup.
Can we clarify, is everyone here, Sarah, you might know the answer to this, able to see both the answered and open questions as well as the answers that were put forward?
I believe everyone should be able to see the answered questions,
Right.
but not
So,
the currently open ones.
So it is valuable, I think, for everyone here to look at the answered questions in the Q&A, because there are a lot of good questions that have been asked there with very concise and clear answers that I think you might find valuable. So feel free to take a little moment to go through and look at all of those answered questions there.
We did also have some questions for clarification on which floors. And so the third and the fourth floor are the floors where the show will be taking place. All exhibitors and attendees will enter on the ground floor, and there will be a welcoming moment and information point on the ground floor to get everyone up to 3 and 4.
Yeah, I think the reason that question comes in from, I saw someone ask if we were on the 18th floor. The 18th floor is the top floor of this building. It is the smallest floor because the building is sort of like a wedding cake. It starts as big as it can be, and then as the floors get taller, they get smaller. Some people are familiar with the 18th floor because there are some other shows that use that space. Particularly, I think some people are familiar with DNA on that floor. We are in a brand new space that we have worked with the building as well as with the folks here at Space to design and carve out for Shoppe Object and other events throughout the year on the 3rd and 4th floors. So it is a much larger footprint because those floors are the full width of the building. If you have been to the building and have been on the 18th floor, which is a beautiful space and incredible views, that's a much smaller footprint than the floors that we're on. And so we're lower in the building, 3 and 4. Let's see.
I think we've also had a few questions about the definition of large freight, which absolutely it's a great question. So large freight is going to be anything that is crated or palletized coming from a third-party shipping company, something that would need a forklift to be unloaded off of a truck, something that would need a pallet jack to be moved around the show floor. Anything like that must go to BTX. If you have IKEA shelves, small cardboard boxes, anything that you yourself could move around with like a dolly or a small hand cart, that's absolutely allowed during hand carry.
There is also a question from Andrew about international exhibitors using Phoenix International. Phoenix International is a customs broker that we recommend. Most of our international exhibitors work with Phoenix International and BTX, so your freight will go from wherever you're located around the world to BTX's warehouse, which is in New Jersey, and BTX will then deliver it locally to our show site. So I recommend contacting Phoenix International first and then going in with BTX as a follow-up and using their portal to get your items to the booth afterwards.
And yes, for those who joined a little late, this meeting is being recorded, and there will be a link to the recording later this afternoon. We will post it within the exhibitor manual, and Amrita can email it out as well.
A question on wall heights in the new space. There is a combination of different heights. We have 8-foot tall walls and 10-foot tall walls. Operation has sent emails out to everyone which disclaims how high your walls are, but if you have any more questions, you can reach out to us again and we will clarify for you.
Just a quick note here. I think many of you have already seen your booth number and have received that information. To clarify, if you have not received your booth number yet, there could be several reasons. One is that you're a very new sign up, although there are a few of you who would fall into that category and it's still being defined. But in most cases, it's because there's probably some kind of an open balance with the accounting team. And so you just need to reach out to accounting at Shoppe Object to settle that up, and then you'll receive your booth assignment.
And even then, it might just take, 48 hours to get you listed on the directory, just because we're working as fast as we can to get through all the emails. So just please be patient, but be sure, if you're all paid up and there's no open questions, you will have your booth number listed in the directory on shoppeobject.com.
Jesse, I saw a question about the natural light and covering the windows. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, so we have done our best in the layout of the space to maximize the incredible natural light that the building allows for us, while still doing what we need to do to get as many great exhibitors onto the floor. There are lots of moments throughout the floor where we are really embracing the windows. We have a section on the west side of the third floor, which is our larger floor that runs the full length from 11th Avenue to 12th Avenue, that we're calling the Riverside Lounge or Sunset Lounge, depending on what time of day. That will be a pretty activated space that will be beautiful to look at the river and gather. There'll be a bar there. Throughout the floor, on both 3 and 4, there are breaks in the perimeter booths to let light in. If those of you who were familiar with Pier 36 can recall, we had a window on the riverside of Pier 36 that broke up a few booths. We're emulating that idea throughout the floor so that there are these nice breaks, usually at cross aisles, that let natural light in. But we do have perimeter booths around the entire perimeter of the space. So that means that most of the windows do have walls in front of them. However, we have flipped it this time. Instead of the tall walls being on the perimeter as they used to be at Pier 36, we now have 8-foot walls around the perimeter. So there will be some light that pours in from the windows above those walls. And then the majority of the floor, most of the booths are in the center of the floor with 10-foot tall walls. So sort of piercing the floor plan in many different places to allow for lots of light to come in from both directions. I would say at the far east end of both floors, we also have full exposure to the windows, which will be lovely. All right, we have no open questions at the moment. So that means we've done oh, there is one right there. Is there a floor plan map somewhere? There is a floor plan map, and you can't see it because we're still working with it. It will be shared very close to showtime, as it always is. You might be a new exhibitor, but we don't typically share our floor plan until right before the show. We are making little changes right up to the show, and particularly with a new vendor, we need to reserve the ability to do that as we create the best possible experience and maximize the space. We're still dealing with construction elements that might come in and require a few little adjustments here and there. So you will get your booth number so that you can send your packages to your booth or include it when you're doing your BTX shipment, but you won't really see the floor plan until it's fully presented in brochure form.
Someone also asked about an invitee list. I know that's come up in an attendee list for the show, for like a buyer list.
Yeah. That is, we've never shared a list of all buyers. We don't have permission to do that. It's private information that buyers share with us when they sign up for the show. So we do not have or publish in any way a full list of all attendees. I would say that if you have particular buyers that you want to be sure are reached out to, or if you're just curious if they've attended in the past, You can send me a direct inquiry and I'll do my best to answer that question for you, but we don't, as a general rule, we never have, and frankly, probably never will publish a full list of all attendees. It's not something we're permitted to do, really.
And on that note,
Sorry, you're probably going to say this, but if you get these emails, as many of you do, because I get them all the time, offering to sell you a list of the attendees and buyers coming to our show, do not buy it. It's, pardon my French, bullshit. It's not real. So don't do it. And they sell those lists for all kinds of shows. And they're, if you dig in and try to find out who it is that's selling you that list, you'll never get an answer because it's not legitimate. So don't buy a list.
and they happen also for, I believe, even they're trying to reach out to you for like hotel deals and things like that. If it's not a shopobject.com domain or andmore.com, which is our parent company, do not engage. Just ignore it, spam.
Jesse, a question came up about food. Do you want to discuss the food, what we're doing inside and then the building as well, quickly?
Yeah, good idea. So we are still fine-tuning the options. I will tell you that we have many of the same catering partners that we've always had. We are working with Monterone, who many of you are familiar with, for cafes and food spots throughout both floors. We are also, once again, working with Onyx Coffee Lab, a great partner for delicious coffee, tea, etc. There will be a Masha Cafe in the Nourish section, as there has been in the past. We're still identifying whether or not we're going to have additional catering partners, some that we've worked with many times in the past, but there will be lots of options on the show floor. One nuance to this building is that as you enter the building, you enter or can enter through the Ali Ali Market, which is the food court for the Starrett Lehigh building, with many, many delicious options. So right in the building, you have really great additional options, as well as the ones that will be on the floor for attendees that want to eat lunch right on the show floor. There's also a really great Marcus Samuelson restaurant in the building if you want something a little finer and more expensive. So that's available to you as well.
Fantastic. Grace, did you want to say anything about Shop Online?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everybody. I'm Grace. I've probably emailed with the majority of you guys. I just wanted to mention that we are going to have 2 Shop Online dedicated tutorials in January. One will be Wednesday, January 8th at 12 p.m. Eastern, and one will be Monday, January 27th at 12 p.m. Eastern. We will be emailing out those dates as well as a Zoom link for those tutorials. So don't worry if you weren't able to jot that down. I'll be answering any questions that you have during those webinars, as well as if you have any questions, you're always welcome to email me at hello@shopobject.com. But I wanted to just briefly go over a few new updates to Shop Online that we've made recently. They are as follows. We can add now notes to buyer scans. So if you scan a buyer at the show, you can add a note to try to remember about their store or what you guys talked about, what products you talked about, and you can always download those notes into your leads later on. We now have a Shopify integration feature, so you can add your Shopify items or products from Shopify directly into Shop Online. It eliminates the need for a CSV or manually having to upload those products. You can now also sync your orders with Shop Online, or with Shop Object, or with Shopify, I'm sorry. So as soon as you place an order or have an order placed on Shop Online, it will be reflected in your Shopify inventory and backend. That's a big one, and I can answer any of those questions anytime you have them. Now we also have an upgraded public marketplace. Buyers can see your products if they're not logged in, but they cannot see any pricing or minimum quantities. They have to be logged in and registered to see those details. But this is a big upgrade. And then also we have upgraded the checkout procedure. When creating a purchase order, it's way more user-friendly and it's simplified. You will definitely notice a difference if you've seen the existing procedure. But those are just briefly some updates we've made to Shop Online. I'll go over those updates as well as processes that you will need to know for the in-person show, such as scanning buyer badges and saving leads to your account and accessing those leads later, and creating purchase orders with buyers and accessing those purchase orders later. So I'll be going over all of that in those two webinars in January, and we will send you details about those webinars shortly.
Great.
Yeah,
Thank
just to follow up on that, because some people have asked, they will be covering the same information, those two webinars, but as Madeline pointed out, we certainly might field different questions, so there might be different information by way of the questions asked. And those of us from Shop Object, some of us will be there as well, certainly. If other questions arise that are pertaining to other operations, and if they're something we can easily answer there, we certainly will. And again, if there are broader updates related to the show or operations that are not Shop Online related, if we have them at that time, we will certainly share them in those webinars.
Yeah.
But there are lots of really great things on the Shop Online front that we want you to all be aware of and get used to using.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. I think there's only one last question about, do you get a scanner as part of your booth package? No, you don't, but you can use an iPad or an iPhone or a laptop, anything
Yeah.
similar to that, right, Grace?
Yeah, you can, well, we recommend being logged in to your Shop Online account on your phone at the beginning of every day, so that when buyers are coming into your booth and you'd like to save their information, you can just quickly scan their buyer badge and save that to your account and then continue on your conversation. We also recommend, if you have an iPad, definitely bring it, and you can scan buyer badges with those, with the camera app on those. And the purchase order screen is really convenient to use on an iPad as well. So the iPad is probably the best, thing to bring if you were scanning buyer badges and creating purchase orders in the booth. But you can also use your laptop for purchase orders as well. But no, there will not be any scanners. Any other questions?
Jesse, there is a question about attendee flow between the floors. If you
Yeah,
want.
so we, obviously buyers can choose to go wherever they want to go, but we are funneling traffic upon arrival up to the 4th floor, which is the smaller of our 2 floors first. It has a different arrival moment. And our plan is to encourage people to take the elevator that goes straight up to the 4th floor as the point of entry, and then go down to 3 from there. Again, 3 runs the full length of 11th Avenue to 12th Avenue. The 4th floor is from 11th Avenue to about midway point in the block. There are some different features to the floors, different food service, and again, that arrival point is different. So we're working to direct traffic up to 4, and then there is a stairwell that goes between the 2 floors, as well as elevators that go between the 2 floors. So that's the way that we will be directing traffic. But I would say once people arrive, they will be choosing to travel the floors as they wish, as always. Well, I would just ask if there's anyone else here who feels like there's something that's come to top of mind that they want to share here while we have everyone's attention. I think we've gotten close to 60 questions answered, and hopefully you know where to find us if questions come up after this, and we're always here to answer your questions. But this recording will go out to everyone probably today, if not tomorrow. It will be updated in the manual, and hopefully you all know how to access the manual, because again, that is really your best source of detailed information about all things related to this new show, and it's updated in real time with any new information. So that's how you'll get the link to the recording. Are we sending it out any other way? Is that the way that we're going to share it with everyone?
It'll be posted on the front page of the manual, and Richa will email it out as well.
Great. Someone thinks our playlist is repetitive. Yeah, there's always new music. We're always adding to it. Can't promise you that you won't hear the same song twice, but we'll do our best.
If you have favorite songs.
Oh, Renata, that is a can of worms.
I'm not saying we can play them. We do actually work with a DJ. So you know, I'm just actually more curious. I'd love a Shoppe Object, you know, open source playlist. So send us your favorites.
Any fish heads in the audience?
That's may or may not be played.
Okay. We do have a Spotify playlist, don't we? Someone just, I think you can access on our website. You can access all of our playlists. They're there. They're publicly consumable.
And that's actually another good point. Our website is also chock full. Not only is our manual really full of lots of really good information, you have to, you know, look at the navigation and click through, so it might not be like immediately evident, but our website is the same. There's so much on there. We have like brochures from the past, we have, you know, playlists, we've got a lot of information about everything Shoppe Object. So if you have a minute, take some time to look through that too, especially for the new exhibitors.
And another anonymous comment here that is worth touching base on. So in our previous space, some people had speakers right over their heads. Some people were far away from the speakers. We tried very hard. I think there are a few people that I would guess are on this webinar today who struggled with sound in their particular area of the show floor quite a lot. This is a new space, and we're creating it with our partners in the building. And it's my understanding that there will be a very small speaker at every single column throughout the space, so that we will have a very uniform distribution of sound. It means that we won't have to overcompensate with volume one place in order to make sure that there's something to be heard in a space that's far away from speakers. So hopefully that will be a really different experience than we've had in the past.
One more good one. Any networking opportunities for exhibitors? I didn't know if you want to talk about the exhibitor get together at all, the party, or
only to say that there will be one.
Okay.
The details of which have not been shared because they're not final. But we always have a shop party, and I would say those of you that attend can vouch for the fact that they can be quite fun. They wouldn't be like chatty networking events. They are usually dancing and enjoying yourself events, but we will have a gathering. I think networking on the show floor is a good way to go. I think most people who do our show regularly make good friends with their neighbors and find a real sense of community there. I don't think we'll have anything in advance of the show like that. Maybe one day we can come up with something. We've been so focused, honestly, over the last couple of years on trying to identify and find and create this long-term home for the show that can accommodate everyone. And I think now that we're in it, certainly there'll be some kinks to work out through this first show, inevitably, but I feel pretty good about where we are right now. And certainly by August, we will have learned a lot, and we'll have time and bandwidth to focus on many of the thoughts and ideas that you bring forward to us and that we have in our own internal sort of conversations about what we would love to be able to do and create for this community moving forward. So lots of good stuff to come. But Renata, you had your hand raised.
I wanted to just mention, or also, you saved the date for our party, which will be on Sunday night, it's always Sunday night. And no, we can't do Sunday.
It's Monday.
Sorry, Monday night. So sorry. Our show is Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, February 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So it's the 2nd through the 4th. Just wanting to clarify that, because I think at the beginning we may have mentioned 2nd and 3rd, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, 3 days. So the party will be Monday night, which is the 3rd. Yes, great. And the other thing I wanted to mention with the networking is we also have breakfasts in the morning, which are great opportunities for you to meet your neighbors and your other fellow exhibitors, and also buyers are invited to the breakfasts. The show is already open, so you may already be at your booth, but buyers are also coming early. There's networking opportunities available just throughout the day, in the lounges, in all the spaces that we're going to create for you to be able to commingle.
Will there be a press room at the show, or a place? Usually members of the press can go to registration, is that right?
Yeah, we do. We have not identified a press room at the moment. We're still looking into it. We're considering it. It's not something that we've ever had in the past. So we've never had a place where brands traditionally in some venues and some shows, certainly permanent showrooms, you might have an opportunity for exhibitors to bring press kits to a press room that can then be accessed by members of the press. We do press tours. I personally do press tours every day of the show with many different members of the press who come through our PR firm, as well as, on their own. But we have never traditionally had a press room. So it's not out of the question. We don't have one defined on the show floor yet. Sorry, these questions about difference in the floors. In the way that we had some nuance to some of what was on the floor downstairs versus upstairs at our second home at Essex Crossing over the past 2 shows, or sort of neighborhoods occasionally a product at Pier 36. There will be some nuance, but and I will say that we are experimenting probably more than ever with an element of category adjacency in certain categories. We are, I think, by design, historically, a show that tries to lean into a sense of discovery by not creating groups of total and complete alignment by product category. So we do not have a defined kids section, or a defined home fragrance section, or a defined accessories section. And that's something that we've always sort of believed in and felt was a nuance and something different about our show that we find interesting. We certainly have had comments and questions from exhibitors and buyers in all directions over the years. The interesting thing with comments is that you hear such different ideas from different people. There are some people who are used to that and like that. Maybe it's a buyer who only buys stationery, so it's easier for them if all stationery is together. And then there are buyers who are much more lifestyle oriented, who really enjoy that sense of discovery. It allows them to bring things into their store that maybe they wouldn't have thought of because in another show they didn't walk that section. I think that's sort of who we are at our core. That's something we like, but I think it's fair to say, Renata, that we're experimenting a little bit, particularly in areas where we've heard from exhibitors that they find value in it, with some more adjacency by category, not hard and fast, not as a rule, just bits and pieces of it, and we'll see how that goes.
Wonderful.
Yes, for example, this person is asking about scent-based brands. So we do not like to have scent-based brands right next to each other. That is not a good idea in our mind, even though there are shows in the world where they're all together. That's something that we generally focus on. It doesn't mean that you might not have a scent brand around the corner from you or within eyeshot in some way or down the aisle, but we try to carefully make sure that there isn't, you don't have two vendors right next to each other that are both selling home fragrance. And a lot of the questions that are coming in here again are easily answered on the manual or in the manual, but we're still getting a few more answers in here. So is there a way, do you think, Sarah, that people can access these answered questions after this webinar is over, or not really?
I will have to look into that.
If we can, we will, or we might, just throwing this out there, we might go through the answered questions if we can copy them and share answers to questions somehow. Is that something we could consider doing? Do we see value in that? Or maybe that's not necessary.
I feel like we've talked about the good ones that live. Yeah.
All right, so we're up to 81 answered questions. We're nearing the end of an hour. I'm going to keep the door open with a hard stop at 2:30, just while we have people's attention. So keep those questions coming in for the next few minutes, and we'll stay and answer them so that we can commit to that hour mark. I don't see any favorite songs coming in here, but we'll find a forum for that. Pets allowed in the show. Can you bring a cat? I mean, have we ever had a cat on the show floor? We've had dogs on the show floor. Certainly people, if you're able to move into a building or walk into a building with your pet, if the building allows it, we would allow it. We like pets, we like kids. We don't have any issue with any of that, as long as the building allows it, which I don't know if they do. I think any building in New York City certainly has to allow pets if you need to have them with you for one reason or another. So I would say probably, but I don't know. A cat? Never seen a cat on the show floor. That might be. Nothing against cats. I mean, is it on a leash? All right, we're getting some music options here. Wow.
Again, for any shop online questions, feel free to email Grace directly at hello@shopobject.com, and be sure to attend the 2 town halls that she will be hosting.
And do you want to reiterate those dates, Grace?
Yes, absolutely. They are January 8th at 12 p.m. Eastern and January 27th at 12 p.m. Eastern.
Great. And so again, those are the two webinars we're going to be hosting, specifically talking about Shop Online and some of the great things that are happening there and sort of new elements to the platform. Just going to reiterate for those that didn't join the beginning of this this town hall today, a lot of questions have been answered, but there's tons of great information in the manual, which is updated in real time and will be updated with a link on the front page to a recording of this webinar. So if you're just signing on or you signed up late, be sure to go to the manual and watch the recording, and I'm sure you'll find a lot of good answers to questions there. And again, if you want to reach out specifically related to your booth, I think reaching out to operations@shopobject.com is the best way to go. If you have any specific questions about something related to sales, reach out to sales@shopobject.com. If you have something very, very directly related to me, if you want to email me at jesse@shopobject.com, JESSE, feel free to. And we'll do our best to answer all of your questions as quickly as possible. But to wrap up, new day, we're moving into our new venue for the February show at the Starrett Lehigh building. And we're super excited about it. It's our largest footprint yet, all under one roof in an amazing new space that we're really excited to share with you all. It's a great list of vendors, and we're looking forward to a really great year. So thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.
And we're looking forward to seeing you really soon.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.